against your customers. Do not deceive your customers. Don't engage in this kind of behavior, because if you do, we will come after you too.
That's a promise from Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays. Her team is taking action against Coulter Motor Company for deceptive practices.
Consumers were lured down to the car lot with a low price. They were told that they were going to be getting a very low price, which was often called the Coulter price, and then they ended up being charged a whole bunch of add-ons and higher interest rates.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Parts Talk. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. I grew up working in the dealership environment for a very long time, and at the time most dealerships were owned by families. Some still do, but not the majority right now. You see, dealerships are now being gobbled up, bought up by large dealership groups. But what makes dealership groups successful is that they stick to the basics, the business of retail sales and good customer service. And this is what separates the winners from the losers. The dealerships that are really bad will always get exposed. Now, we have a feature video here with a dealership being accused of deception and discrimination and is now facing millions of dollars in fines from the FTC and the Arizona Attorney General. This is a significant moment. Why? It's that not just for this particular dealership, but for the entire industry overall. I will try to unpack why some dealerships might resort to such an unethical practice and the far-reaching consequences that will follow. Mind you, some individuals will still employ these unethical practices, and if the owner sees the money rolling in, they are also unethical and they will just run with it. But little do they know, karma will always win in the end. Before I press play, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and give that thumbs up. The algorithm will really appreciate it. Let's get into this feature from the Arizona's Family 3 TV.
Against your customers. Do not deceive your customers. Don't engage in this kind of behavior, because if you do, we will come after you too.
That's a promise from Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays. Her team is taking action against Coulter Motor Company for deceptive practices.
Consumers were lured down to the car lot with a low price. They were told that they were going to be getting a very low price, which was often called the Coulter price, and then they ended up being charged a whole bunch of add-ons and higher interest rates.
Mays says many customers were not given the option to opt out of the add-ons and were told it was required by the car manufacturer.
Coulter was getting itself to its higher price, and making higher profits by adding on features that the car buyer didn't want. Things like etching for the VIN numbers, nitrogen, tires, different sort of add-ons that they never even asked for.
Lindsay Coulter is the operations manager for the company.
Well, I don't know exactly where their confusion is. I do know that as a company, we are always putting our full disclosure of anything that is on the vehicle. No customer is made or told that they must purchase anything on a vehicle.
The complaint alleges Latino customers were charged about $1,200 more in interest and fees.
That part of the investigation is the most hurtful personally. As a family-owned store, we would obviously never, ever let things like that happen. And there's no evidence, and we have never seen anything of that nature happening at our stores.
As a part of this settlement, the family-owned company agreed to pay $2.6 million, with most of it going toward refunding customers. They must also change its policies on fees and markups, conduct employee training, and get a fair lending officer.
We decided that settling financially, it was the smartest decision for the company. This could have gone on for years, and it would have been very costly for the company.
There's a lot to unpack here, but we have to address the big question. Why would a dealership risk engaging in deceptive and discriminatory practice? And the simple answer is greed and desperation. She did say that there are certain things that they did not do because they couldn't identify who was doing it and if it was was actually something going on. But with the increasing pressure to meet sales quotas and maximize profits, some dealerships, I'm not saying all, some dealerships may resort to unethical tactics, and this can include misleading customers about pricing, hiding fees, or even discriminating against certain buyers, as you're seeing here in this particular case. One of the things is that I also dread going back into the dealership, especially the sales department. You have to pay so many different administrative fees and taxes, but yet they want to sell you additional things. At least some will let you know they want to sell you additional things in order to inflate that monthly payment, which we don't buy into. Person actually looking at the card, all these options should have already been there, and then you eliminate whatever you want to do. So in the short term, these practices might seem like an easy way to boost profit, but the long-term consequences are very disastrous. And if you apply other real-world examples, black people in America already faced Jim Crow laws and redlining. Job opportunities were far few at one point, with laws that had to be amended. Affirmative action, for example, but they also came with unintended consequences like quotas. Institutional racism is deep rooted. So certain groups, certain ethnic groups will actually question a lot of things. If I am Latino, black, or Asian, am I being treated the same as other races or other ethnic groups? It's just a fair question. My content is not so great, but it's not terrible either. But thanks to YouTube, it doesn't pop up in a lot of the algorithm. Let's talk about the fallout. When a dealership gets caught in deceptive practices, the fines and legal repercussions are severe, which you're seeing here. Millions in fines are just the tip of the iceberg. The real damage is to the dealership's reputation. It takes years to build goodwill and just minutes to destroy it. And all it takes is one or two bad apples. Trust is everything in the automotive industry, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to regain. Customers talk and the word spreads very quickly, especially in today's digital age. A single negative story can tarnish a dealership's reputation for years, leading to a significant drop in sales and even the eventual closure of the business. But it's not just the dealership in question that suffers. When one dealership engages in unethical practices, it casts a shadow over the entire industry. It's another reason some people hate going to dealerships, like yours truly. The term is coined stealerships. You will see that term ever so often when stories like these pop up. Customers start to question whether they can trust any dealership, and this distrust can lead to lower sales across the board and harm the overall reputation of the automotive sector. Let's finish up this video.
And, the federal government obviously has endless funds that we don't have. We've admitted to nothing, nor will we ever, because we don't believe we did anything.
And so I asked the AG's office if they believe maybe a language barrier may have played a role in why Latino customers were being charged more, and they say that is something that they will be looking into. Now again, if you think that you were a victim, you can file a complaint, and we've set up a link to make it easy for you to do that. It is on our AZ Family app and website.
And the thing is, the automotive industry is already facing challenges with changing consumer preferences and the shift towards online car buying. And adding a lack of trust in the mix only makes it harder for a dealership to thrive. The brick and mortar businesses are struggling right now. The dealership is one of them. Another example I can share is one of the dealerships I worked with engaged in cross-regional training. The dealership was majority owned by an international trading company, and it was part of its automotive division. But on a quarterly basis, managers would meet and share their KPIs, and there was no need to scam, discriminate against anyone. All the ideas to grow your dealerships were right there in one room full of bright and experienced individuals. Dealerships are in a sad state today, it's sorry to say, and if they still resort to discrimination and deceptive practices, and this is a telling on the person in charge. Absolutely disgusting in my opinion. My suggestion is to start charging the individuals promoting these unfair practices. It's just a pity the Attorney General didn't get the opportunity to go in and go through the entire entire books, emails, dialogue, communication to see exactly who was talking to who. Another question is why the entire dealership and the staff has to suffer. Now, these dealers will have to live with the stain forever, including the bad publicity you're seeing here and the bad online reviews. The good always suffer for the bad. What's the takeaway we're seeing here? Dealerships really need to prioritize transparency, honesty, and fairness in their dealings. Might bring short-term gains, but the long-term consequences are really just not worth it. And for the industry as a whole, this case should serve as another in the long line of wake-up calls to enforce stricter standards and ensure that every customer is treated fairly and with respect. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. What do you think the industry can do to prevent these kinds of issues in the future? Let me know your thoughts. As usual, remember to grab a copy of my ebook, The Parts Manager Guide. Please smash that like button on your way out. It will only take you 1.5 seconds to do so. Until next time.